I'm Rain Phoenix.
And I'm Summer Phoenix.
And you're listening to LaunchLeft Podcast, a space for famed creatives to launch the next wave of music rebels. Also an intentional space to highlight and empower all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. You're joining us here today at Gold Diggers in Hollywood, California. And we have the immense pleasure of introducing you to Kev and Will B of the band Black Violin. Welcome, guys.
All the way from South Florida.
All the way from South Florida.
You know we're Floridians.
Are you?
Yes. Time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious.
We were raised in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
Okay.
North Central, so not quite as south, but
Right.
actually close to Georgia.
Right.
But I was born south.
Yes, you were.
And that's pretty rare to be born in Florida. Were you guys born in Florida?
I was born.
I wasn't born in Florida.
Where in
but-
Florida were you born?
I was born in Fort Lauderdale, in Broward County,
Yep.
Broward General in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Sure.
I still live in Fort Lauderdale.
You still live in Fort Lauderdale? Okay, how about you?
I was born in Caribbean, Bahamas.
Okay.
That's where I was born.
And when did you make it over to...
I was about 10 years old when I made it over here, and didn't leave. Stayed around, stuck around.
Okay, and how did you guys meet?
We met in high school, first day of high school in orchestra class.
Okay, and you guys are in a band and you play violin and viola.
Yeah.
For us who don't know,
It's not a band.
Yeah, for
It's
us who
orchestra.
don't know.
it's an orchestra. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
You guys play in a orchestra.
Soul, funk, hip-hop, orchestra.
Yeah.
Can you let us know what the difference between a viola and a violin?
Well, I mean, the difference is, the easiest way to explain the difference is, most people are familiar with the choir, right? You got the soprano and the alto. That's pretty much the difference. You got the violin, which is smaller and it's higher pitched. You know what I'm saying? The viola is a little lower and sexier. It looks better.
I don't know about all that.
Is this a
I
point
don't
of
know. I
contention
don't know
for you
about all
guys?
that. Nobody even knows what a viola is. They call it the viola, first of all. And but yeah, like it's the violin's smaller and it's obviously more well known. It has more of a defined voice. The viola is sort of a kind of an awkward sounding instrument, honestly. That's why most people don't play it, but it's really important in the voicing of an orchestra. So it's like that middle. It's that that harmony that just gives it the color. So it's an important instrument.
On your new record, on the song Al Green, is that viola that
Yes,
we're hearing? Okay,
yes.
so that's what I wanted to know was
Right.
that I was like, okay, now am I telling the difference?
It's all about her.
at
It
you.
always goes back to
Always
her.
comes straight back.
You
It's
you
all
have a
about her.
well-trained ear,
So
don't
listen
you?
to me. This I didn't learn in 5th grade, but my question, here's my next question, is I always feel that violins are like a voice in a lot of ways, right? And have a sense of urgency to them. And when you guys are playing in your orchestra, there's like a dueling quality
Right.
between these voices. And I notice on the record also, you often don't play violin and viola on the songs that you sing on. I mean, there are some, but I
Right.
felt, and I wondered if like if that was maybe due to the fact that maybe you agreed with me in some way and thought that also your string instruments were your voices in some way.
You're kind of spot on. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, because we try to approach it very, very differently than anybody's. If you think about, jazz, you got the sax, the guitar. No one thinks of the string instrument in that way. You know what I mean? As an instrument that is in the forefront, that's in your face. You know what I'm saying? So we really try to be very purposeful about that. About if I'm playing, I'm more of the R&B, very like Al Green. It's very smooth and with the violin, he's very kind of aggressive with it, like he's rapping or spitting, you know what I mean? So we really try to be very intentional about this is a violin, this is a viola, but you're going to hear it. You're going to hear us.
And it's going to lead the situation, I mean, the song that we are performing, the Spaz, I mean, if you look at it and hopefully you watch it on YouTube, we're trading off as if we're giving each other, you take a 16 and we take a 16 and we're going to come together and spit the chorus or spit the hook kind of thing. And I think that our approach to it is a lot of why we've been able to have success, because it's like, okay, it was one thing to not hear violins in that way, but it's another thing to not see violinists move like rappers, like when we perform and how we approach the music. We're giving you classical music, but it's in the same form that Drake songs in.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I
taking
mean?
like
It's the
Gangster's
same-
Paradise and being like, here's a whole fucking record.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly what the whole idea is. So it's like, I'm always just, first of all, I'm super impressed that you noticed that. I'm going to give you all of it, all of the credits, all of the juice, because that was a great catch. And then, the violin and the saxophone, I'll say the two instruments that closest to mimicking the human voice. And, we just wanted to take that and take it to a whole nother level and bring that idea into popular music and into hip hop.
What brought you both to music?
Well, my mama made me do it to start. I didn't really want to play music. I kind of got in trouble in my neighborhood, and she was trying to find a way to get me to go to a school outside of my neighborhood. So she put me in this music program in 5th grade, and then it worked. I ended up getting into the Performing Arts Middle School. I had to get in a bus and go to the other side of the county to study music, and all of my other friends went to the normal school. So it did kind of take me away from them. So it did work, and it did what she wanted to do. And then in high school we met, and then we were just in this. We kind of went to like a black fame. Like our whole school was just everyone did something, but everybody was just like black or Latina, and in the middle of the hood in Fort Lauderdale. So when we met, we were just playing classical music, but we met and we went to school in the '90s. So I'm listening to like I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. Like walking to my bus, or I'm listening, and that's when Biggie was coming out. I mean, everybody everything.
It was a great.
It was like the best
for
time
hip-hop.
to be a teenager
Yeah.
and listening to hip hop. So we're listening and being immersed in this culture, and then at the same time we're studying the violin, and it just kind of happened. I don't even
Wow, that's
know when
cool.
I was like, oh, I'm going to be a violinist. It just 30 years later we're still playing.
And
So
for
you
you,
talked-
how did I want to know
Yeah,
how
okay,
he
fine,
came to
fine.
music?
It's a little different for me. I wanted to play the sax, and they put me in the wrong class. True story, And I was really excited about playing the sax too. And I went to the teacher, and I was like, "Oh man, I want to play." And he told me to sign up. And I guess the string teacher was in the same room, and they just played golf, and they betted against me. They're like, "Listen, whoever wins this golf game gets this kid in their class." And I walk into the class, and I'm like, "Where's the trumpet? Where's the sax?" So I was stuck with the class about 2-3 weeks, and I just took advantage of it, and something clicked after like a couple of days. I ended up just really loving this instrument. It was very different because I've never honestly seen a string instrument up close. But I embraced it and I loved it, and 26 years later, I'm still playing.
Right on.
Yeah.
And then you guys met in school, like you said.
Right.
We met in school, and we met
It
at
wasn't
orchestra
called
class.
Fame Academy.
No. We went to Dillard High School of the Performing Arts at Fort Lauderdale.
Cool.
And when we were there, we were always playing classical music, but after class, we would mess around. Will would always play the keyboard and start singing. He used to love Brian McKnight at the time. And so everything, Brian McKnight, D'Angelo, he was always just singing and stuff. And for me, I was just always into producers. So like Missy was big at the time.
Yes.
And I remember Missy came out. And Missy at the very
I
beginning,
used to work out to her only.
Man, and at the very beginning, she wasn't really, really well received. She's so different. But Missy and Timbaland and just the way that they started, making their beats, I was really just started getting interested in just making beats, and that was my thing. But we were studying classical. We had, three periods a day where we studied classical music, and we just got nice on it. I don't think we were ever we're going to be the best violinist ever. We just taken this class, and then we just get better and better every year. And then, by the time we were seniors, we're top 3 in the state, and just from taking these classes, we had no lessons, nothing. Ended up getting full scholarships to college. We went our separate ways. He went to Florida State University. I went to Florida International University. And then, but when we split up, it just didn't feel the same. When we were at school, everyone looked like us. Now we're in college, and I was literally the only black kid in my entire orchestra for the first 3 years. And so it was just a kind of a culture shock, and I think at that moment we started be like, all right, well, we studied this classical. Now how can we take that and then make these beats and make these hip hop beats and take what we're learning from this study and bring it into popular culture? And then that was really kind of the focus after that.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You talked a lot about intention and bringing these string instruments to the forefront and giving them, using them as voices.
Right.
So was that your intention initially to go to the classical community and say, yo, this is hip hop, and go to the hip hop community and say, yo, this is classical music, and marry those two to try and bring those two genres together? Or was it just a very much like, this is what we're doing, hope you like it?
Well, I mean, it's very much like that. But at first, we just wanted to be producers, like Kev said. We wanted to be two major producers. You know, we were huge fans of Timbaland, the Neptunes, you know what I'm saying, was big at the time. So that's it. We just wanted to incorporate something that we knew, which is classic music, in a way in the popular music that no one's ever done. You know what I mean? That was the whole goal. And we had a whole label. We had artists that we signed to our labels or whatever. So and we would perform with these artists in South Florida, and we noticed how the crowd was very focused on us. You know what I mean? So we would perform with them and playing along with them in the back, and they're always just really focused on the violins. Like, what is that behind the rapper or the singer? You know what I mean? So we said to ourselves, man, let's try this artist thing. You know what I mean? Let's really try this, because the whole putting the violin in the forefront, the viola, is something that's not new to us. We've always done it ever since high school. It was always fun for us. But then we started focusing on being artists, and that was just the natural thing for us to do. It wasn't something that we woke up one day and said, hey, we should put these two genres together. It was really in us to do it. It was very organic how it happened. You know, like listening to a song on the radio and pulling out the viola was just very natural for us. We didn't even think twice. Nope. And hip hop, that's what hip hop is about, honestly. It's about expressing yourself. It's about you find that one thing that you love doing. Just express yourself with that one thing. And that's what hip hop is all about. And I credit hip hop to just our ability to really express ourselves the way that we do, you know?
Yes, I'm a believer. I'm in.
Well said. Well said.
I also hear tones like in the songs that you do. Is it you sing? Who's Anderson packing? Who's Lenny Kravitzing? Who's Andre 3000? All over the place up in there.
Man, those are three really good compliments.
But seriously, great reference. Obviously, that's massive compliment. But definitely, that was what I was hearing.
Thank you. That's me doing all of those. You know. Amazing artists. I love every single one of those artists, and I think it started for me just being in your own head as an artist and just going for it, right? Just jumping and not even thinking about nothing, just expressing yourself. And over time, being on the stage, you develop, you grow. Yeah. And as a vocalist, I started really developing as a vocalist, and next thing you know, I'm singing songs that people are mistaking it for Anderson .Paak or Curtis Mayfield or whatever. So it's great. It's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to your
my second question, which is your influences. I hate doing it, but I always go give us two top, because then because I have a million, right? You have a million. Yeah. So maybe just, how about 10 top? Just tell me who you love. Like who really, like when you were a kid, your mom maybe played, what got you to go like, wow, connect, because we really believe in music as a kind of therapeutic art and a way that it really touches, it's the universal language. It has the ability to connect everyone on the planet. And so like, who were those artists for you that connected you to music in that way?
Well, I would say just to even step back a little, music, sometimes, when I hear certain songs, it takes me to a point of my life, so it's like, everyone's influences are different. Mine, when you said thinking about my childhood, it makes me go back to probably my first influence, and the influence that's still like when I hear anything by him, I'm like, just like the hair stand up on me, and it's Bob Marley, right? Yeah. And I remember the reason why, right? The reason why is that when I was a kid, every morning my dad would wake up and listen to Bob Marley, and I didn't know what he was doing at the time. I know now because I'm older and I understand the sense that we're in the room. But yeah, it was just like something about that. Like he'd wake up and he'd listen to Bob, and I'm like, why do you always listen to reggae music in the morning? And he was like, son, that's how I cleanse my palate. And then as I got older and I started studying Bob Marley, and I started studying pretty much everyone's music, I mean, even the biggest, best, the people that was the truest to themselves. I don't know I don't know if Bob Marley ever sang or ever recited an untrue or unreal note or lyric in ever. Now, every other artist, even us, I mean, we've been assigned to Universal. We've done all, oh, we need to put this track on here or whatever. So there's notes and things that maybe I don't listen to 10 years later. And I don't think that Bob has any of that. And there's something about that, about being so true and the integrity of it. So it's like it even exceeds music. It's more about just a person that like lives their life like that, because if they live their art that way, then that's probably how they're living their life. So he was probably my first true influence that really changed how I thought. And then I'll say my next one, just to throw that in, I'll give my top two. Musically would probably be Timbaland, because I just loved how he approached making beats, and it is why I do what I do now. It's a big part of it, not even the violin part, but just trying to be creative. He, just listening how he did it. I was always a huge fan of his, and probably my two earliest influences.
Fantastic. Yeah, great answers.
Yeah, those are, two great choices. Obviously, I'm inspired by those as well. Definitely Bob Marley. Like, I agree. I mean, I don't think he ever uttered a single word that he didn't believe in. And I'm typically drawn to artists like that. One of my favorite artists of all time is Curtis Mayfield. I think the same of him. Just like especially being of the times where he was creative and he didn't shy from speaking about things that he wanted to speak about, which was very necessary. And I'm very drawn to people like that. They're just really bold and just like, listen, this is how I feel, you know what I mean? And I'm an artist, so what? I'm going to express myself the way that I want to. And I love that, you know what I mean? And his music really speaks to me. And another influencer, I don't know, let's say,
Stevie?
Stevie Wonder for sure. Stevie Wonder, I would say, Al Green, the Marvin Gaye's of the world. I just love, I love that sound, that Motown sound.
Yeah, we grew up with all, that was like...
I literally just told someone that yesterday. It was like, so what kind of music do you like? And I was like trying to go through like, well, I love PJ Harvey and Bjork. And I was like, to be honest, Motown is like my favorite genre. Like if you've been on a Motown
it's just because of the
record,
feeling of it.
What I was
so
just
authentic,
thinking about when you were talking about that, was like that level of authenticity was their activism. And it was like such a which brings us, to the third question that we always ask, which is like, how does your art activate you?
And I have a feeling that because your record is, to me, a kind of call to action, to have hope. Right?
Is it called Take the Stairs?
Take the Stairs.
Which in and of itself, I don't know why you guys call it that, but to me it always means like, I'm not going to take the elevator. I'm taking, you know what I mean? Like no matter how high I got to go, I'm going to take the stairs.
Well, and there's that great quote. There's that great quote about, take the first step. I think it was MLK who said that. Like you might not know where it's going to lead, but take that first step. Like there may be I don't know if it was, I think, I got to look it up now while we're talking.
Well, you have a song called
One Step.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
And that's the whole point of that song is like, listen, here's what it is. Here's where we are as a people, right? Now, what's that next move? What's that next step,
The evolution.
And, our music is just, our music just for whatever reason really lends itself to that. Even if there's no words to our music, it really has this ability to really bring people together. It has this ability to really allow people to really think and broaden their minds and get people to honestly, develop a little bit of compassion with the people that's around them. Because if you come to Black Violin show, there's all these different kinds of people that are in the same room together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there is something in, I think, the very instruments that you play. Like I was saying, there's like this level of urgency that comes from the sound that they make. Yeah. And that is so activating. When you've got urgency with positivity, it is activating us all to unite.
Yeah.
That's real.
And that's part of what we're trying to do. It's just like, any art, whether it's, film, television, anything, it's trying to create an emotional response. Now, the people that are really good at it, they can kind of pull at heartstrings depending, I know how to make this person feel sad in this moment. I know how feel empathetic of the, and the really good creative people can do that in all mediums. And for us, I don't even think we try, but everything just always comes out hopeful, that's sort of the heartstring we're normally trying to tug on, because I think, we both think that, it's probably the thing that's needed the most right now. And we have this awesome platform to do it. We are really good at tugging on that string. So we just kind of focus on it.
Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase.
Yes.
That's the quote.
Yep.
That's what I think of when the title of your record. Jumping off into hope, hope doesn't mean you get what you attach to getting or that you want, but it's just having faith and hope that what your path is matter, like using your voice to be optimistic in a time when there isn't. And I really love what it seems like you're talking about a lot on the record is, about how there's so much polarity going on right now and so much us against them. And like, how do we, highlight and talk about our shared humanity more? How do we come together around the things that we can connect on, like music and art and culture, how do we bring, artists especially have that gift in many ways to neutralize in a way some of that vehement back and forth that goes on, and I really love that was part of what you're talking about with the record. I think that's really important right now, and I salute you for even having the courage to step out and speak to that.
It's necessary. I mean, we live this, we're human beings just like anybody else. And the funny thing is, man, there's something that we all have in common. I don't care who you are. I don't care how famous, rich you are. Someone has lost somebody at some point. You know what I mean? Like that whole Kobe thing, right? And, man, that if that doesn't really put some perspective, I mean, I don't know what else will, because it's like, bro, this can happen to anyone. Look at a person that's just like,
and it happens to everyone.
It happens to everyone. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like you said, like, how do we get to that place that we can see each other's see each other's just people, right? Like I see you across the street, I see you from across the restaurant or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, you look different, you are different, but we're humans, right? But at the same time, we don't do enough of educating people of just like, you know what I mean? Like the differences should be embraced and should be loved. You know what I mean? Like you should see someone that's different and just like want to know and just like be curious and just love that person. You know what I mean? Like education to me is the key. And I think we've been, we've been brainwashed for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? So it's just like, how do we break that mold? Again, what's that next step, that one step we need to do to really, go into our future as a species?
Yeah, for sure. So. I agree with that completely. Yeah. I mean, and and even tying it back to the music, I don't even know if we necessarily are trying to do anything. Like we're just being artists, and when we create our art, we recognize we have a platform that people respond to. Last night we were in Turlock, California. We've never been there before. Played a show, and just sort of the response from the crowd, and you look out in the crowd and it's just black, white, purple, green. There's 9-year-old, 90-year-olds, like everything, and then after it, they just they now have this experience where they shared an experience with people that they normally wouldn't even talk to, and then it's like after the show they're talking like, what do you think? Oh, it was great. And then just to be able to have an art form that and a platform that we can, just by the nature of these big black guys playing violin, it automatically is something that changes the way people think. But then to have music and a performance that kind of gives people hope, it's not, I don't think we ever dreamt of something like this, but now it's a responsibility of ours because we have it. So.
Yeah, but the fact that you see that you have the awareness of that, and that you adopt that as performers, is what's super powerful and really important right now. Like I'm of the opinion that, we all have a marked amount of time here and a short window that we're here. And if we're artists, like, to inspire each other to take responsibility and to use our platform to encourage and inspire young people all over this country and the world to use their gifts to translate and transform our culture and our friends and our enemies and all, why not? Like you have this incredible power, and if you have a platform, like
give it away.
It makes it more eternal in a sense, since we have such a short window, to really care about the bigger picture. It actually adds to your personal experience of like singing a song or getting on stage or being on tour. It's like I'm doing this in a wider aspiration.
Yeah, because I mean, truly, like if we really just came on stage and entertained you every night, it's like okay, man, that's fine. Right. But we have this idea. We have a time. We have 100 minutes with you. It's like okay, we can entertain you. But we could also inspire you and educate you at the same time.
Call and response.
And, I mean, it's like we give ourselves to people because we've seen it come back. Like, I remember 12 years ago, we were at a show, maybe longer. I wasn't even married yet. And we were at a show. We just won Showtime at the Apollo. Like, our career is just starting. And then this guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, I have these 2 kids, and they study with the same person that started you on violin. This is a local show, right? Wow. And I remember at the time, I wasn't, I had some new girlfriend. I wasn't even, I talked to them a little bit. And I was just like, hey, I want to be like me. Just make sure you practice, right? Go, this is just some snapshot from 15, 16 years ago. Then fast forward maybe 8 years later, and we're performing again in a local show, but a bigger show now. We're sold out. And then the promoter was like, hey, we got these young violin players to open up for you. And I was mad. Me and Will were both mad, like, what? We want to be the first violinist on the stage. What are you talking about? Tell them no. And it was like, I already told them. Their dad said that they're gonna do it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I sit on the side of the stage and watch these young kids just like play like baby black violin. They're just like, they're 15 and 16 brothers. They go to our high school and and they're performing. I'm like, wow, like they're killing it out there. And at the very end of the performance, it was like, I remember talking to Kev Marcus 8 years ago, and he said, practice. I was like, oh my God. And I remember at the moment, like I was just like, at the moment, I wasn't even really trying to talk to them about, because I was like running out the door or whatever. And then that little moment that, it meant so much to him, to them. And now they're called Sons of Maestro, and they're performers and professionals, and they run around the country just like we do. And so it's like, I think in that moment we realized that you just don't know what that little whatever you can do, whatever seed you can plant, you don't know where it's gonna grow.
And that's not the important part, is like keeping track of how you've influenced people, right?
We just
the important
spread
part
it.
is doing your best.
Right.
It's one foot in front of the other, giving back in whatever way that you can as an artist. And sometimes it'll land, sometimes that's not the point. The point is like it feeds your soul to give outwardly, right? And so that's what's amazing. I think for a lot of people, like until they volunteer as an artist or until they do something that isn't about just them getting like somewhere, that's the first time they'll touch into that. But it's actually a thing that happens in you, as I think is an artist.
I think it's in everybody. And I think
of course
we as humans forget that at some point. I mean, that I think there's something in everybody that it triggers. I mean, sometimes it may take you becoming extremely rich and famous or whatever, then you just like, then it clicks. You know what I'm saying? Something may happen to you that it may come back. But I think it's in everybody that if you do something and you do it well, and you're able to take this thing that you do extremely well and give it to somebody else, there's nothing like that. You can't buy that feeling. Nope. You know what I'm saying? And I think we're all hardwired to feel that feeling of just like, oh my God, that was amazing. That was great. Yeah. But we lose it. You feel me? Like we lose it. Yeah. And it's funny. I was watching this scene from a show. It's on HBO. I'm not gonna promote no show now.
You just did.
I did. My bad. But the whole thing was about this guy who was a billionaire who gave away his billions. And he told this other guy he was talking to a quick story of how when he made his first million, he was so excited. He was just like hyped, right? And that feeling of him making his first million, he didn't get that same feeling again until he gave away every penny that he got. You know what I'm saying? And that's just real. You know what I'm saying? I really believe that everybody has it in them. They just like at some point in their lives, it becomes all about them and trying to get to this mountain, this the top of the mountain, you know what I'm saying? And at some point they lose that, you know what I mean?
Especially because they realize, I mean, I think eventually we all realize that there is no plateau at the top of the mountain.
There's nothing there.
You don't get up there and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is how I climbed that.
Here's the
high
sad
just
part.
for this,
Here's the
and you're
sad
happy.
part. Here's the sad part. People will get there and they will realize at some point there's nothing there.
Right.
And then what happens? They try to come down. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they jump down. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's nothing up there. It's the journey.
Yeah.
That journey that you climbing up there and trying to get there and seeing people that are trying to get up there. You're like, yo, come on, hop on my back.
Yeah.
I've been doing burpees all day. I'm strong. You know what I mean? Like, I got you. You know what I mean? Like, people lose that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
But
it
I
ain't
think
nothing up there.
I find that same like feeling that you're talking about that is very intangible,
Right.
right? But in art, like
Absolutely.
and you were talking about how like, that your influences, it's more about like a feeling and how a song can bring you back. And it's that sense, right? It's like our many senses, like a smell, a sound, whatever
Absolutely.
can bring you just immediately transport
And that's what
you
I was going to say about Bob Marley,
Absolutely.
like going back to both of you chose him, is like that his authenticity and his integrity as an artist is the kind of music that is so transformative that anyone that listens to it does get a little inspiration
Right.
kick of maybe
Absolutely.
I should feel that part of me that is there that I haven't felt, right? His music
Exactly.
encourages, right? So that's kind of the conversation we love to have here, is that's why we call it an intentional space to highlight and empower artists, is the idea that like when we have these conversations and we broadcast them and when we cultivate that kind of discussion in a very intentional way,
Right.
we are putting seeds out there.
Yes.
And we're not looking to see where they plant or what but the point is we're putting them out there on
Exactly.
purpose,
Yes.
all of us together.
Yes.
And when we
Absolutely.
help each other in the community, that is like you said, we don't, if you've done a lot of burpees today, come on,
Come on, let's do it.
come on,
Right.
we'll climb this next thing together. That kind of connection to other artists, that fans out to everyone. And you're right, it's not just artists that have that, but I do think in many ways that artists have the ability to transform
Absolutely.
culture, and we've seen that for so many generations. And Bob Marley
Absolutely.
Yeah.
is one of those artists. For
And
sure.
I'll tell you, like my kids exclusively, I have a 12 and almost 16-year-old boys exclusively listen to hip hop. I mean, we just
Right.
had a whole conversation yesterday about how Pusha T is just like not recognized enough, and when is he
Right.
ever
You're
going to
so
get a
right.
Grammy? And I mean,
That is so true.
and then this morning, I put your guys' record on while I'm making breakfast and getting ready to drop them off at school, etc. And they were both like, what's this? And I was like, oh, I'm interviewing these guys today. We're going
Right.
to sit down and have a conversation. He's like, well, what's the story? And I was like, I don't really know the story. That's not, we kind of stand
We're here
on
to
like,
learn.
we don't know
Yeah.
anything.
We're here to learn.
We're here to
And I
learn.
like
And that's
that.
why
Right,
we're
right.
sitting down with you guys. So
Right.
don't really do research per se. We listen
Right.
to your music,
Right.
which was so thrilled. But both of my kids were just
Right.
like, now this is good.
That's what's up.
And I
That's what's
am
up.
so grateful.
That's what's up.
So
it's the first time I'm hearing that.
And it's also about like and it's introducing them to something completely different. Yet
Yeah,
they
exactly.
still liked it, which is the best compliment that anyone can give us. And again, we're just trying to make we definitely are trying to be creative. We're definitely trying to do things that you can't hear anywhere else. But yeah, like just trying to spread this idea of hope and the idea of taking the stairs. Even Will and I, when we were talking about that, our creative process is interesting. We'll sit down with no kind of box, so to speak. No, it's to quote like Deepak Chopra, it's the law of potentiality. So the idea that anything is possible when we sit down in the studio is sort of how we go into it. We may have, maybe want half vocals, half instrumentals. We may have some loose construct, but for the most part, we just go. And then this album, we were just like, let's just put hope on the wall. So we put hope on the wall. We came out with these 13 songs, and they really felt good. So our manager's like, okay, we got to name this album. We're like, we don't know. Like, we don't want to call it hope. We've been, we're just talking about different things. And then I went to Will's house, and we sat in the back, and we were just talking about our lives. We both each have 3 kids. We're talking about just where our kids are, what we want for them, what the idea of the album was. It's not about just about preaching hope. It's about what things are like when you are hopeful, what they are like when you're not hopeful, why to be hopeful. It answers a lot of questions about it, but we didn't want to be direct with it. So we started just talking about our career, and we've been doing this for 16 years now. Wow. We started in 2004. We sent a tape to Showtime at the Apollo in 2002. They checked it 2 years later. We went on to Showtime Apollo and won 4 times and won the entire year with 2005 Showtime Apollo Legends. And that was how we started our career.
So cool.
And then I remember we got 20 grand, but back then, I mean, you know, American Idol wasn't out. None of those competitions were even created yet. But it felt like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they even put out a press release. Like it was like we won, but we were like on our own. You know, and we just had to just go. And then for every year since then, we've been slowly just kind of, you know, on stages in the back playing with Alicia Keys. We're in Iraq playing for the troops. We're on Broadway. We're, you know, playing with Linkin Park and Thailand or wherever. And just slowly every year we're just rising to a place that now we're in 2020 and we're sitting here with you guys. And it's just every year is better than...
Oh, so you won the race.
We
This is the plateau.
Yeah.
I am
This
the
is the plateau.
This is the plateau.
We've worked our whole life to be sitting here with you two ladies, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
But, you know, we were thinking like, so it was like, you know, when we're talking about it and we're thinking about it, and then there are opportunities that we've probably passed up over the years, like, hey, come play in this big person's band in their background, and it's like, I don't really, or like every talent show wants us every year, and we're like, oh, we've done that, and I know we don't seem as big as, you know, to you guys, but we don't want you to control our art, so no, you know, so there's been many years where we just, you know, toss, you know, different opportunities to the side. And for us, we look at it as like, you know, we were like, man, you know, because we took the stairs. We let the elevator just pass us by. And then we were like, that idea of just taking the stairs is interesting, because for us, it's like, you know, we feel as if, like, say for instance, these guys that are on the talent shows, right? You know, you go on America's Got Talent, you win 2nd place or 3rd place or something like that. It's basically as if an elevator just opened up, you got in it, and it took you to the 50th floor of a 100-story building.
Yeah.
And then once you get off it, then the show is over, and then now,
What the hell are you
where are you
doing
gonna do?
up there?
You know what the 50th floor looks like. You're in the building. You don't want to go back down to the bottom, so you stay in the building as long as possible. And eventually, you just like, all right, let me go back outside and just, you know, go back downstairs and see where I'm at. And then you look at the building and like, oh, I've been in there though. I've been in there. All right, let me start from the bottom. And you end up doing it anyway.
Right.
So for us, it's like we just kind of took the stairs and we're like halfway up. But I mean, we know the marketing department. We clean the bathrooms once upon a time. We know this whole building backwards and forwards. So it's just a different approach to us. And like, you know, I think that since we're at this place, there's so much that can be gained from taking the stairs, from taking the hard road, because, you know, the way that we appreciate every single fan that comes every single night is different, because we had to earn them one by one over the last 15
and
years.
you're modeling that for your children too.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
for sure.
you're showing them what hard work does and the moments
Steadfast.
that you can grab
Right.
from each of those things. You don't appreciate it when you just hop into the elevator.
No, you don't.
And by the way, you can have my seesaw metaphor if I can take your building.
You can take
stair
my
elevator
building metaphor, yes.
Okay.
So you got it.
And that final question that, you know, I think we've been kind of talking about the whole time, which is sort of like, how do you activate your artistry in an activism way? Like, we're always curious about that. And I know you all play for the troops, like more than once you guys have gone on tours, and that's really powerful.
Right.
Would you count that as kind of like what your give back in an external way? Or look, you could just say, we've had a few artists say, like, just giving people a smile all day long, like smiling at people is their form.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure on having a specific, but that to me was like, that stood out like a lot of warmth in my heart for you for doing that. I mean,
that's a part of it, and it's funny. And every time we did it twice, and every time we go back, and they love it. They're appreciative, because not a lot of artists go there and perform. So they're just like, oh my God, thank you for being there. So for us, it's definitely something that we love doing, man. It's just, again, our music just does something to people, right? And
Yes, I concur.
yes,
Correct.
So we can't ignore that. You know what I'm saying? We can't ignore the kid that's looking at me with his eyes wide open. That's just like, I could tell what that little kid is feeling. Like, oh my God, this is cool. Maybe I can do something that's incredible. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily got to be the violin. It could be anything. It could be art, literature, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So there's something about that we can't take for granted. You know what I mean? Like, you know, not to be corny, but Spider-Man, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. I think
Definitely.
it was his uncle, you know, that said it.
Uncle
But,
Ben, yeah.
so
I mean,
we don't take that lightly, man, and we see it everywhere, all across the board. And again, that's for us. That's how we activate, you know, our artistry and activate ourselves and just really try to activate people, you know what I mean? Because again, we perform in front of a crowd that is completely mixed.
Just I wanted to throw something in just about the activation. We also have a Black Violin Foundation.
Nice.
We basically what we do is we connect dots. So it's like, for instance, we grew up and we had a really good teacher, but our teacher just did a couple of things, like got us really good level instruments that gave us the confidence to get that college scholarship, or in the final year of high school, we didn't have money for lessons and he got a lady to sponsor it, and she trained us up, and that's how we ended up getting the college scholarship. So like, even though we were in a really favorable situation, so to speak, with the teacher, there was still a couple of things that was necessary. So the Black Violin Foundation, we just started it 6 months ago. We're looking for donations, but we're also handing out scholarships, for kids. We have it's called the Musical Innovative Grant. You can check it out, blackviolinfoundation.org. And if you are a kid in need that needs just, that violin lesson or that trumpet lesson or that trumpet or that beat, that computer to make beats, whatever, you can apply for our scholarship grant at blackviolinfoundation.org. Also, how we activate our activism.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
So
Yay.
cool. Well, thank you so much again for being
Thank
on
you.
the
It
show.
was a
We're going to
pleasure.
hear you perform in a minute. And I just wanted to let our listeners know not to forget to rate and subscribe at LaunchLeft on all socials, #LaunchLeft. You can find us everywhere or at launchleft.com. And also, was there something else? Oh, I just wanted to thank Audio Technica. We are so grateful because they have graciously, that's the word I was looking for, graciously donated microphones to the cause. So you're listening to our smoky vocals through Audio Technicas right now. Thank you, Audio Technica. So next up, Black Violin Live. Thanks for watching and listening.
LaunchLeft aims to create an intentional space that highlights and empowers all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. LaunchLeft begins with music, but its ultimate aim is to launch left-of-center artists in all creative fields.